Okay, it's prepping it.
Are you putting, wait, hold on, you putting my business page or me live?
It'll go, I don't, it'll go on my page and then it'll go on your page.
Oh, okay. Because you're tagging me in it, or oh, so
I
just
tagged you. All right. Let me. All right. This is Brian Tully here with Sell for Millions, and I've got Shamina Taylor with me. She's an expert. Well, you're an expert at a lot of things, but today we're gonna talk about how she's really built a massive following on social media. And why don't you have an incredible background? Just kind of share all the things you've done and what got you to this point in life, and really what you're doing now. And about a year ago, I worked with her. She kind of helped me get clarity on a lot of areas of my life. So what she does is, in coaching people and helping people, she's very, very good at, and I can attest to that. So tell
thank,
us about you. Tell us all about you.
thank you, Brian. So my story, it's a kind of a long story, but I'm going to kind of get it, to the punch. I was a high overachiever, a super successful person. I'm an attorney. My background is, perfectionism, always getting everything done, and just really, really high achieving. That was how I was raised. It was what a lot of business people and actually the clients that I work with, like yourself, that's the level that they play at. And part of that though was that I was missing a piece of within myself. We call it like being asleep, but I was not tapping into another portion of myself, which was my spiritual self, which was my higher energy, which was, the infinite us. And that's where actually the magic really flows from. I've always been a super manifester. I've always gotten what I wanted, could create anything, but sometimes there was more hustle than there was flow. So once I had an awakening, which happened on a yoga studio floor, it was one of those days where you just had, a come to Jesus moment. It was a crisis that happened. And I knew that I had to change my life because I was living the same thing over and over again. And it was not getting me where I wanted to be, because there's only so many achievements you can get and still feel unfulfilled. Like there's
Absolutely.
keep getting them. And then there's still that joy missing. There's still something missing. And it's almost like, anybody who does drugs or drinks, it's a different type of distraction and addiction that you have in your life to avoid feeling whatever is going on in your life, right? So that was what my resting was. That's what I went to. That's what I leaned on. So for me, I had that moment. I ended up, having a huge shift in my life, getting a divorce. It was one of those things that happened. My
Okay.
husband at the time moved out, but I realized, we just grew apart. We were living a different journey, and it just was time for me to work on myself. And then I spent literally 3, 4 years, it's been 7 or 8 now, but working on myself and healing myself. And I found that true wisdom came from it. I learned what my purpose was. I've shifted away from the overachieving attorney into now mentoring people to find their purpose. And
Is that hard to do? I mean, there's a lot of status to being an attorney.
really, really difficult to do, because when you're thinking in a very, analytical way, and you're very, you do this and you get that, it's sort of like that was, once I did this, I knew this outcome would come. But when you go into that other, realm, and you live from a different place,
Sure.
you're relying on faith, you're relying on, magic, you're relying on your intuition, you're relying on your gut, you're relying on
Absolutely.
so many things that are guiding you now that most people ignore in their lives, but for me, I had a pattern that was repeating in my life, where most people have a pattern that repeats and they ignore it. And so this is, the universe saying, hey, wake up. This is not working for you. You've got to do something else. So finally I got that, like, hit, like, time to make some changes, some shifts, and the time is now. But it's not an overnight thing, right? So you have to work on yourself. You
Sure,
have
it takes time.
in stages, and being the overachiever. I remember I tell the story a lot. I remember going into my therapist and my healer, and I'm like, okay, I need the timeline exactly. When is this going to be done, and when will I be able to complete this project, and how? And it was funny because I really had to learn patience. I had to learn sitting in my shit. I had to learn facing my stuff. I had to stop running, and there was no timeline. And it continues, actually. Every day I'm working on myself. Every day I'm clearing something. Every day I'm raising my consciousness level, but it makes me more powerful in my energy. And it brings everything to me, like my following, like my tribe, my work that I do now. It's all from a flow-based place because I love what I do now, and I loved being an attorney, and I still, if I had to practice, I would. But in this place,
If
it's
you
like,
get in trouble, you'd be able to bail yourself out, right?
right, exactly.
That's good.
Like if I had, but I see the shifts in people's lives after working with me or
Sure.
just following me on social media. My inbox is so full from people like saying like that message resonated with me. I like to create my own content because I create it from my life experiences. So
And
whatever I teach is from something that I've learned.
and most of the people that you work with come from your posts and what you're doing on social media, right?
All organic. Yeah. All organic. I have not had to pay for any of, the people coming to me. It's just vibrations, it's energy, it's your message that you put out there. I'm going to get into the things that I think that are important, but I really feel like people make it too hard for themselves. Like they make it difficult in creating their online presence. They try to create something that's not in alignment with who they are in their message because they don't know that yet. So that's the problem.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up the word alignment. I mean, if there's one thing I've learned over the last couple of years, it's like you're either in a line or you're not. And I compare it to, I go to a chiropractor. If my back is out of a line or something's out of a line a little bit, they can crack me back and I'm, back to full strength. And it's the same thing with aligning in your life. If something's out of whack a little bit, it's like amazing how the rest of things can just kind of fall apart on you and you don't feel good. You don't, it's hard to accomplish what you need to accomplish. All that.
Exactly. It's all energy though. Like if your energy is off in one area, it'll affect other places, And so
Sure.
now I dig for it. I look for the things to help heal me, to help grow me, because for me, evolving and expanding helps my personal, gain, but it also affects the people that I work with and the people that I'm going to work with. So I feel like, I'm almost now because I'm overachiever and I can still say I'm releasing some of that, but now I'm like, well, what else can I fix? So it's like it's a balance that you have to find.
Right. Well, the three things we're going to talk about today, and I'm really excited to learn from you. I mean, I've followed you now for a couple of years. It's how it's how we met, and I'm always shocked. It's like you will post something that I'm thinking about that will help me that day. It's like, what are you inside my head? Knowing what I need to hear right now. And we're going to talk about authenticity. We're going to talk about fear. And if there's one thing that I would say from knowing you and following you, it's you're a badass, fearless woman, which
Try.
is great. And talking about the person's story, and your story on how to build that following. So let's talk about authenticity. What does that mean to you? How do you teach that?
So this is what I found. I think that I read energy. So when I see and I look at someone's post, or I can look at their page, or I look at what they're producing online, I can see places where they're showing up this much, or they're showing up a part of their story. And so,
So you can tell that.
oh yeah, right away, right away. I like, especially when people come work to me the first time,
Okay.
I always can see their page, and I'm like, I already know where you're not showing up because that's where your self-limiting belief is, or where block is, or
Interesting.
and it's just the way I work. It's my gift. So the thing that I find is that the more that you have peeled back the layers of your healing and your understanding of who you are, the more
Okay.
authentic you become. And then your messaging gets super aligned with that person that you are now, presenting to the world. Because if you're online and you're trying to build a social media, people want to know the real you, not the fluff you, not the perfect you. I mean, yes, let me back that up. There is that perfect persona, that pretend life that people like to put online, which I did for years because I didn't know any better. And
So
there is,
why do people do that?
because
What's your opinion of that?
we all wear masks. We don't like to show who we are. We hide what we're feeling. We don't want the world to know our insecurities, our failures, the things that we ourselves are not willing to identify with inside of ourselves. So we're not, that's vulnerability.
Right.
If I show up that way, then people will judge me. And this is where the fear kicks in, like it'll happen automatically. I can't post that. The things that I post that I know, like, oh shit, when I press send and I'm like, I said that. I know that that post was actually coming from deep in my soul and it's going to affect many people. Not everybody might like it, but they'll read it. And
Right.
so it's just that's where I know that's my true authentic self. And lately you said to me, she's like, your posts have been so on point because I'm digging deeper, because I know there's room for me to grow more. Like, and it's like, how much more can I give? So the more that I get clear with inside myself and get real, I actually grow and I can show up more in my truth, which is what I believe and what my ideals are and what my wisdom is. So that's where my authenticity comes from.
Yeah, one thing that I guess really cracks me up in some ways on social media is the filters that are available. You know, where
Everywhere.
you'll, I mean, I know people that I see their pictures and I'll see them the next day and I'm like, who is that? They, you took the picture of, and I guess, I mean, to me, it's almost dangerous, right? I mean,
It's just where they're at. It's like you can't. It's where I was. You can't have people be anywhere they can't be. And that's where people are. And so, unfortunately, it's their coat, it's their armor, it's their self protection. It's the balance that they know in their life at the moment. So I don't judge people because I see that too, but it's just where
sure,
they're at. And I see people like fronting on the book and just being one way, saying I have this, buying that, and then I know that they're living a whole different way online, out off of online. But it's what makes their ego filled right now because they're coming from an ego place as opposed to a spiritual place. So ego is hustle, and spirit is flow. So they're tapping into a different type of energy, which I would consider as a low vibrational energy, but it's keeping them comfortable because comfortable is easy, comfortable, safe.
so obviously you're very active. You have a massive following. You have what I would call massive engagement as well,
I do have
meaning,
really good engagement.
you know, uh, there's, typically 20 to 100 comments on your things. You'll have thousands of likes on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Have you noticed, just out of my curiosity, when you are more authentic, does that message resonate with more people?
So this is the key about messaging. Yes. I think that when I'm sending a message from a heart-centered place for myself, and it's something that I've experienced, and it's not something that some of these little gurus out here, like and I don't mean to say that in a negative way, but they're
Sure.
just regurgitating things that they see online, or they went to a Tony Robbins event and now they're repeating his stuff. It's like you can see when it's not coming from a heart-centered place, and so it's hard to connect to a message like that. Everything I put out is my message. It's from me. It's from my lesson. So it comes from a place of the depths within me.
It's
So I
yours.
I feel like that
Yeah.
connects to people on a heart centered place. And that's why I have the engagement, because I'm not just putting fluff out there. And, one of my jobs is I do trigger people. And that from working with me, like, I mean, a lot of my clients know that I'm here to trigger you, to push you. So my post will make people have some sort of reaction to it. So either they'll comment, they'll, with an engagement, they'll share it. I know the posts that get the most shares. Like I recently posted something on Instagram and it got a ridiculous amount of shares. It was hundreds of shares. And so it was something about I have to think about it. But when I can look and see what resonates with people, I know that that message was deep and it connects with them. And that's where I think people miss out in their messaging, is that they're not actually talking about something they really do care about. They're thinking about what that person wants to hear as
Sure.
a coming from within. So they're trying to preempt someone's reaction rather than having it being authentically their message. And so when it's authentic, if there's an energetic vibration that's attached to it. And so
Sure.
that connects to people on an energy level too. So they're whatever's within them is going to connect.
Well, it's interesting, like with what I do, where I help people buy and sell businesses, and as you can imagine, you from being an attorney, there's a lot of legal, there's a lot of accounting, there's
Right.
there's all these, really high end technical parts of getting a deal done. And from my viewpoint of getting hundreds of deals done, it's typically about the culture of the company. It's about how people, will it be a match once it's sold to somebody else? I mean, all these other things that almost have nothing to do with anything other than people being real, and getting that across so that both the clients of the transition and the employees will be happy. And I see business owners all the time. They'll take less money to have that culture, all those different things. And I can share that there were many times I thought I had to be all technical, right, about how these things were done. And once I quit just trying to be somebody I wasn't, and say, hey, here's how it's got to happen,
Yeah.
it everything just fell into place. So I appreciate that from you. So how did you make that shift? I mean, you mentioned that you weren't all that authentic.
Um, well, the awakening, healing the things. Approval was huge for me. I needed approval. I needed validation. I sought those things out. There were things that, I was raised with needing, and the beliefs that I had within myself. As soon as I started knocking them out one by one, I started realizing that I was living for me,
Okay.
myself, and not for how people perceived me. And once I got over that hump, I think that's what put me into a different place. With my journey. It put me in a place of being in control of how I wanted to show up. Now, when I post something, I put something out there, there's a different energy with, say, my personal Facebook page, my business page on Facebook, and then Instagram. I know that the personal Facebook page, I have people that on there that know me for years, or there, and then there's the new people that are on there. So I know that a message I might put on there might not get as much engagement because there's people that are still asleep on there, and they're like, what is she talking